dollar is in a dire situation. Yes, with BRICS forming an alliance and many more countries wanting to become a part of it, the US currency that has been ruling the international market for decades might not be relevant anymore. The history of the dollar. If there's anything we know about history, it is that it always tends to repeat itself. When we talk about the history of currencies, we know that no one currency acts like a reserve currency forever. Throughout history, we've seen a changing world order between the leading economy and the rising economy many times and in time. One economy loses its worth and another economy takes its place. Before the American dollar, the reserve currency used to be the British pound, which lasted over 100 years. So now we understand that a currency never ever keeps its place at the top. After World War II, the pound had been hit really hard, and the world needed a new financial system, so different countries gathered together in 1944 to figure it out. During that time, the US possessed the largest amount of gold, as the Allies paid for supplies in gold during World War I. This influx propelled the US to become the foremost holder of gold, and, as a result, the most influential. In 1944, 44 Allied countries convened in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to formulate the Bretton Woods Agreement. This agreement aimed to develop a system for managing foreign exchange without adversely affecting any country. According to the Bretton Woods system, world currencies couldn't be exchanged directly. They had to be converted first into the US dollar and then into other currencies. However, there was a loophole. The United States would allow other countries to exchange their US dollars for gold. The demand for Treasury securities and deficit spending to finance the Vietnam War and the Great Society domestic programs caused the United States to flood the market with paper money. This surge in currency supply raised concerns about stability. With growing concerns about stability, several countries began converting their dollar reserves into gold. The demand for gold was such that the US lost around 50% of its gold in a short amount of time. In 1971, the US President Richard Nixon made a revolutionary announcement that changed the dollar forever. He revealed that the US dollar will be completely ditching gold, so what is it backed up by? Nothing but faith. The consequence of that was that the value of gold skyrocketed, and not only did the value of the dollar go down, but the inflation in the US got a lot worse. With the dollar not being backed up by gold and losing its value, why didn't other countries ditch the dollar back then? That's because of the petrodollar deal. In 1973, the US struck a deal with Saudi Arabia called the petrodollar deal, which changed everything. The US realized how precious oil is and how every country needs oil for power. They decided to build up on that, so they came up with the petrodollar deal. The petrodollar deal stated that Saudi Arabia would be free to extract oil and would be protected by the US on one condition. They must trade oil to other countries using no other currency but the US dollar. Why the dollar has been getting weaker? The first reason for the dollar getting weaker is super simple, and that is, not many countries are relying on the dollar anymore, which means they don't hold enough dollars as they used to. This is because they've seen how dependent they are on the dollar, with the example of Russia and the sanctions imposed on it. During the Ukraine war, the US decided to put sanctions on Russia and wouldn't let it use more than $300 billion. The US dollar was already losing its value, and when that happened, the US started getting into the habit of taking debts to fund itself. This in turn caused a number of issues. Investors are super picky when it comes to where they want their money to be in for investments. When they see a country in such high debts, they move away from their currency because they don't have that faith in the economy anymore since the interest rates are so high. While a higher interest rate sounds good and many people benefit from it, the problem with it is that they have the potential to slow down economic growth. Another reason is the record-breaking inflation the country is going through as of now. Because the US ditched the gold standard a long time ago, They started printing money out of thin air, and they kind of went overboard with it. This in turn caused inflation in the market, and the cost of basic living went up and reduced the purchasing power of the country. To add to that, due to tensions between the Saudi government, Saudi Arabia cut down the production of oil. As a result, oil prices went up, exacerbating inflation in the US. The US has threatened with consequences, and now Saudi Arabia is considering joining the BRICS alliance. What is BRICS? Because different countries realized that they were better off if they ditched the US dollar and didn't want to be forced to trade with each other using the dollar, they came up with their own alliance, the BRICS Alliance. It is an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These countries aim to change the world by trading with each other and in one stable currency that they all agree on so that they're not dependent on the US dollar. What makes this even better is that all of the countries are developing countries that are making progress on a massive level. India and China are the two leading countries here, with India making giant gains in its economy, and China being very well known for its exports. If this alliance forms, Saudi Arabia will introduce the petro-yuan instead of the petrodollar. How is BRICS hurting the US economy? The main aim of BRICS is to replace the US dollar as the primary global reserve currency with another currency. They are united together because these nations disagree with the current dollar-backed international financial system. Because the new BRICS currency is most likely going to be gold-backed by this new alliance of developing nations, this would make this new currency strong and a serious problem for the dollar. This means that the sanctions the US imposed in countries like Russia and Iran, which are massive, won't be as effective as they used to be because they are free to step away from the dollar. Apart from that, this stable currency will attract more countries towards it, and the process of de-dollarization will accelerate even further. This will greatly hurt the US because these countries will not need the bonds they use today to trade. With the bonds losing their value, there's not much that would keep the dollar from losing its value. How BRICS is good for developing countries. We see that BRICS consists of stable countries and countries that are developing at a very impressive scale. It's also worth noticing that BRICS is there to help other developing countries too. These countries are looking to better their relations with these developing countries by trading with them. Other than trading, BRICS is giving them funds through a channel they call Foreign Direct Investment, or FDI. With this money, these countries can spend money on developing their infrastructure like schools. These BRICS countries have even come together to form the new development bank and the contingent reserve arrangement that will give out loans to the countries that need it, similar to the way IMF does. Do you think that BRICS is a threat to the US dollar? Let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed today's video, then make sure to leave us a thumbs up, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to be always updated with the most exciting content as soon as it's uploaded. Thanks for watching. See you again soon in our next video, where we talk about the chances of BRICS to become the new global superpower.